Good day, students of Southwest Leadership Academy. My name is Mr. Ramos, and I'll be taking over the class of Miss King for your biology class in Southwest Leadership Academy. If you have any questions regarding this videos or the video that I will upload for your biology class, just comment it right down below on the video. Okay? Thank you. Appreciate it much. Don't hesitate to raise your questions in the comment box. I will answer it for you. Okay? Thank you. So, our today's topic is about Darwin's theory of evolution. What comes in your mind when you hear the word evolution? For me, when I hear this, when I'm in elementary, evolution is something that um, an organism evolved to another type of species or mutated some parts of its body. Okay, but when you heard the word mutation, it's a different kind of thing. When we hear the word mutation, it considered about um, chemicals being combined to that particular object or that organisms that makes it mutated, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, there are examples of mutations. So going back, so theory of evolution. How do you think did Charles Darwin come up with this? Okay, so basically, Charles Darwin is also an expeditioner where he voyaged different islands and discovered this type of island, which is the Galapagos Island. So, in this Galapagos Island, this is where the discoveries of Charles Darwin gathered the facts about the theory of evolution. They find out different physical characteristics or traits for particular type of animals that have the that have the same physical structure. So our objective is to explain, or you need to explain Charles Darwin's contribution to science and explain how modern organisms have evolved over long periods of time. So you need to think about it. So if you'd met young Charles Darwin, you probably wouldn't have guessed that his ideas would change the way we look at the world. As a boy, Darwin wasn't a star student, yet Charles would one day come up with one of the most important scientific theories of all time. Can you believe that? Most important scientific theories of all time. That's why I salute Mr. Charles Darwin coming up with the theory of evolution. But when we hear the word theory, it's not yet considered or accepted by the world or the different or all of the scientists in the world. Okay? But when it comes to law, it is universally accepted. Okay? So let's proceed. Charles Darwin also proposed an explanation of how evolution works. Organisms change over long periods of time by natural selection, collected a lot of evidence to support his idea, and Charles Darwin lived from 1809 to 1882. Then he is also a British naturalist. Okay, later on we will talk about the natural selection coming up with the theory of evolution. So Darwin's epic journey invited to travel around the world on the HMS Beagle. Okay, this is the ship where Darwin voyaged. Okay, from 1831 to 1836, at the age of 22, he makes many observations of nature. His main mission is, or the main mission of the Beagle was to chart South American coastline. Okay, that's that's what the expeditions are for, the HMS Beagle. So when Charles Darwin boarded the HMS Beagle, the Beagle stopped in the Galapagos Islands, which is located 500 miles off coast of Ecuador, which is a country that straddling the equator on South America's west coast. Ecuador is a diverse landscape that encompasses Amazon jungle, Andean highlands, and the wild rich Galapagos Island. Okay, so the Galapagos Islands recently formed volcanic islands. Most of animals on the Galapagos live nowhere else in the world, but they look like species living on South American mainland. So that's why I told that the year of evolution is one of the most important scientific discoveries in the world made by Mr. Charles Darwin. Because Darwin found many unique species, many of Darwin's observations made him wonder why were these creatures found only in the Galapagos Island? Like this turtle, like this bird, okay? So maybe what do you think? You can comment it down below the comment section, okay? So Darwin found clues in the fossils, evidence that organisms have changed over time. For example, extinct armadillos and modern armadillos can be found on the same continent, but the fossils are preserved remains or traces of ancient organisms. That's why Darwin tried to figure out why is it different from one mainland to another mainland, like from the American South mainland and from the Galapagos mainland, that this type of creatures or this type of organisms have similar or physical structures that are alike. So Darwin found that different shells on tortoise from different islands, that several islands in the Galapagos were home to distinct forms of giant plant tortoises. The tortoises' shell varied in predictable ways from one island to another. The shape of the tortoise's shells corresponds to the different habitats. Maybe that's what Mr. Darwin found from his time. Okay? So Darwin found that different shells on tortoises from different islands, like in Pinta Island, he found that the turtles there are intermediate shell. And the Wood Island, he found out the shells of those turtles are saddleback shell. And in the Isabella Island, he found out that those turtles have a short neck that are that have dome-shaped shell. So from one island to another, their physical structure differentiated, maybe because of where they live or the ecosystem where they are right now. Also, there is this type of birds that Mr. Charles Darwin discovered. It's called Darwin's finches. Darwin found many different birds on the Galapagos Islands. He thought that he had found many different types of birds, but Darwin found a lot of finches. Darwin was amazed to find out all 14 species of birds were actually finches. Can you believe that? But there is only one species of finch on the mainland. Then Darwin asked himself, if the Galapagos finches came from the mainland, why are they so different now? You can answer it down below the comment box. Why do you think the finches evolved into 14 different species? You could also comment it in the comment box if you know the answer, but I will tell you better later on. So Darwin's conclusion, okay, different beaks are inherited variations, serves as adaptations. I'll just stress that adaptations, where different animals adapt their physical structure from different habitats. So that's why it helps the birds to compete for food. So these birds survive and reproduce more and pass on the genes for those more fit beaks. Over time, nature selected for different species with different beaks. So for the next slide, it's the relationship between species or the beaks and food. So all the Galapagos finches have a common ancestor which is from South American mainland. Okay? maybe we really don't know where they came from, because Charles Darwin is trying to voyage the South American mainland and find out the finches, which is in the Galapagos Island. They have different kinds of species about finches. Okay, but maybe Charles Darwin find the fossil or an old fossil about in the South American mainland for finches, which is the common ancestor is named as a South American finches. Okay, so in different places or in different lands, they're considered to me to be mini finches, but they have different kinds of physical structure, but they are considered under the one family of finches. So adaptive graduation from one species to 14 species. This is what I'm talking about, adaptations a while ago. Okay, so they are considered as one family of the finches, but they have different structure or physical structure that is mainly for cultivating or trying to have their food. Okay, for example, those finches who have larger beaks are considered to live where they try to find their food or their prey as a large prey for them. And for those finches who have small beaks, it's like they're just eating worms or small prey for them. Okay, so that's the different adaptive graduation from one species to 14 or to many species. So that's the difference between them. So let's try to have a review of the objectives. We're already on the last part of it. What was Charles Darwin's major contribution to science, and how have modern organisms evolved over long periods of time? You could answer this in the comment box below, and if you have additional questions, just write it down there. So for today's lesson, that is what, sorry, sir. So let's try to have a review of the objectives for today. So what was Charles Darwin's major contribution to science? And how have modern organisms evolved over long periods of time? So those are my questions for you today, and I hope you've learned something important regarding our topic. And this lessons is also intended for the packets that I've sent you for the next 2 weeks. And if you have any questions regarding this lesson or our lesson for today, just comment it down below the comment box. Okay? Thank you. So there you have it. If you have any questions, just drop down your comments in this video or email me at sarnal.ramos@rop.com. See you there in the next video. Bye-bye.